It's 5:30 on the 27th of September 2025. Out on the Philippine Sea, alarms echo across the decks of USS America, LHA-6. Marines from the 31st MEU sprint to stations as flight crews race for the hangar. The air shudders, the first MB-22B Osprey engines howl, blades carving the dawn. On the bridge, officers lock onto radar returns. Faint, fast, closing. The drill just turned real. Outside, the sun lifts a thin line of light, but tension drowns it. Deck crews crouch behind safety nets. Hand signals cut through rotor wash. Dragons, ready up. VMM-265 checks. Radios, fuel, and loads. Every second is a choice. Launch now and they gain distance and options. Wait, and they risk being trapped on steel. The ship leans into the swell, the bow throwing spray like glass. Sirens dip, then rise bearing shifts, range compresses. The next minute decides everything. Lift, clear the deck, form up, or get caught mid-turn. Survival hangs on speed, discipline, and nerve. No one blinks. Go. The Philippine Sea is more than water. It's the Indo-Pacific's highway where tankers and cargo move fuel, chips, and food that power life at home. Today, USS America and the 31st MEU train here for one reason: move Marines from sea to shore fast. No runway required. The 7th Fleet guards these lanes because when they stall, the shock hits every household. Prices jump, schedules slip, allies hedge. Deterrence isn't a speech. It's a ship you can see, an aircraft you can launch. Every launch is a signal. To friends, it says the US can reach far and respond quickly. To rivals over the horizon, it warns that distance isn't safety. The Osprey is the point of that spear. It lifts like a helicopter and flies like an airplane, letting Marines hop islands and bypass choke points. In crisis, speed and choice mean survival. Mobility turns scattered blue water into a network the US can use. The danger is real. Land-based missiles, drones, and fast boats aim to box ships in and flood defenses. Geography favors the attacker. Long coasts, tight straits, crowded traffic. To counter, America disperses forces, pushes scouts forward, and pairs ships with aircraft that can change plans mid-flight. Drills like this stitch the pieces together, deck crews, pilots, Marines rehearsing timing until it clicks. A clean deck cycle shaves minutes. Minutes decide whether a formation lands safe or breaks. People carry the weight. Sailors read wind across steel. Crew chiefs feel each rotor. Pilots fly low to hide in clutter. It's training, but no one shrugs. The cameras on the horizon won't. If you think striking first keeps these lanes open, press 1. If holding fire builds strength and buys time, press 9. 5:45. The sea is calm, but radar isn't. The combat system flashes new tracks multiple. Fast, approaching from low altitude. On the flight deck, the first Ospreys are still climbing. If they're caught exposed, the whole drill collapses. The commander reacts instantly. Launch defenses now. The first move. The ship fires its standard missiles, long-range shields meant to break the opening punch. Trails streak upward, vanishing into clouds. Seconds later, bursts flash high above intercepts. Each one buys precious time for the Ospreys already airborne to gain distance. Then comes the second layer. The ship's close-in weapons roar to life. ESSMs, shorter-range missiles arc outward, covering gaps left by the first salvo. Every launch is a gamble. Fire too soon, waste a shot. Too late, and the target slips through. On the radio net, the Dragons coordinate with 7th Fleet watchstanders. Air patrols and escorts shift positions. No blind spots allowed. The horizon lights up with explosions bright against gray dawn. For a moment, the crew feels relief, but new returns pop up, faster this time. More drones, small but persistent, weaving through clutter. Contacts, bearing 260, closing. The call echoes through the ship. Pressure rises. The Ospreys keep lifting. Marines strap in tight as tilt rotors push forward, trusting the ship to hold the line behind them. From the cockpit, pilots see plumes in the distance, defense missiles climbing, detonating, burning out. They know every intercept means survival. Every miss means risk. On deck, sailors rearm launchers, scramble for reloads, eyes fixed skyward. Training shifts into instinct. Instinct cuts seconds from reload cycles. The battle rhythm builds. Bridge to combat. Bravo, plan now. Chaff blooms rip the air as a decoy, spools out astern and steals a seeker's lock. The EW team floods the band with noise. One contact fades, then blinks back weaker. The helmsman swings 2 degrees port, narrowing the ship's shape. Overhead 2 F-35 check in, sprinting to cap the inbound stream. If they're late, the line breaks. The first wave has been checked, but the crew knows it's only the beginning. More are coming, faster, closer, and if one gets through, the Ospreys in the air and the Marines aboard them are the ones at risk. 6. Relief fades quickly. New blips streak across radar, closer, lower, harder to hit. Several enemy drones slip through the outer net. The ship shifts tactics. Hard turn starboard 10 degrees. The bow cuts into the swell, angles tighten. Narrowing its profile by fractions of seconds, fractions that mean survival. CIWS cannons thunder. Vulcan barrels spin and spit streams of tracers into the haze. One drone explodes, then another, but a third keeps coming. Gunners adjust, squeeze, fire again. Shards rain into the sea. The deck vibrates with each burst, a reminder that no defense is perfect. Above, Ospreys push farther out. Marines grip rifles, strapped into seats. Every shake of the fuselage reminds them the ship behind them is still fighting to keep the skies open. Their mission depends on it. On the bridge, officers weigh every option. Missiles cost millions, drones cost thousands, an uneven fight. Conserve shots, the weapons officer warns, but don't miss. Every decision is a knife's edge. Save a missile and risk a hit, or fire early and run dry. The crew shifts to layered defense. Decoys bloom, cannons track, radar locks, and sailors reload as fast as hands can move. Every station works in rhythm. Detection, lock, fire, reload, repeat. In CIC, operators ride the scopes. A lookout calls a sea skimmer in the chop. Increase to 22 knots. Speed adds wind across the deck, good for launch. Tough on aim. Then, a near miss. A drone dives for the deck. The CIWS swings, fires, and hits barely in time. Smoke lingers where metal shattered yards away. Damage control teams snap visors down. Medics stand ready. No panic, just discipline. Dragons 2-1. Full state green. Request corridor. Corridor green, keep low, keep fast. A lane opens and the formation punches through. Rotors biting clean air. Guns glow. Loaders swap belts. Smoke clings to the waterline. The horizon keeps spitting contacts. The pattern is clear. Rivals are testing range, speed, and nerves. Each wave pushes closer, forcing choices, bleeding resources. The crew knows the next wave could be bigger. The test is only starting. And here's where you weigh in. If you believe the US should hit harder and strike forward to stop the waves, press 1. If you think holding steady and conserving fire shows true strength, press 9. 6:20. Just when the crew finds rhythm, the fight shifts. Radar flares with a new pattern. These aren't high drones or slow skimmers. They're smaller, faster, hugging the surface so tight they vanish in clutter. Operators squint targets, flicker in and out. Hard to track, hard to kill. New contacts bearing 180. Range closing fast. The call cuts sharp. The commander knows. This is the twist. The enemy is adapting, forcing change. CIWS batteries open up, but the new wave moves like wasps. Vulcan fire slashes the sea, hitting some, missing others. The bridge shudders with each near pass. They're probing for weak spots. The XO warns. Deploy Asset 3. Now. The ship calls its rolling airframe missiles, fast interceptors built for swarms. Launchers elevate, lock, fire. Streaks skim low across the horizon. One drone breaks apart, another veers, a third dives into the waves. But the pace is brutal. The ship maneuvers tighter, throwing spray across the deck. Crew brace against steel walls, gripping rails as the vessel twists to spoil enemy aim. Air fills with smoke, tracers, burnt powder. Seconds stretch long. Each contact comes close, too close. If one slips through, the hit is direct. Everyone knows the margin is razor thin. The Ospreys, now clear, bank wide toward their objective. Pilots glance back once the America still fighting, wrapped in fire and noise, holding the line so they can move forward. The twist is here. The enemy adapts, pressing closer with swarms meant to overwhelm, and the ship must answer or fall. 6:40. The last wave closes in. This is it, the make or break moment. The ship's sensors scream warnings. The CIC floor hums with tension. Dozens of small tracks swarm toward the America, faster than anything so far. The crew braces. Engage all batteries. The order cracks through. CIWS guns roar, spitting fire in blinding arcs. Tracers slash across the horizon. One drone erupts, another shatters mid-air, but others keep charging. The sea boils with fragments, smoke, and spray. Ram launchers fire in bursts, streaks of light carving the wave. Explosions ripple. For a heartbeat, the sky clears, then more dive from low angles, hugging the water. EW floods the band with noise. A decoy drags two seekers wide, splashing into whitecaps. The ship rolls hard. Steel groans as the hull cuts swell, spray sweeping the deck. Sailors grip rails, loaders slam belts, gunners scream bearings. Above, two F-35s slice through, knocking out a control node. The stream falters, but not enough to end it. The ship fights like a living thing, every system stretched, every man at his limit. Close target, bearing 275. The alarm is deafening. A drone streaks inside the last layer. CIWS swivels, barrels blazing, tracers stitch the water impact. Fireball. The bridge shutters. Damage control reports. Shrapnel scars, antennas intact, crew green. Still, another drone presses in. Too close, too fast. CIWS spins, firing non-stop. The ship rattles as the last burst rips it apart yards from the hull. The explosion throws spray across the bow, drenching the deck. Smoke clings to the air. Silence, then nothing on radar. For a moment, the crew breathes. The Ospreys are clear, Marines on course, and the America still afloat. But the cost is heavy. Magazines are lighter, systems strained, nerves raw. Chiefs check heat on barrels. Medics sweep stations. Alarms reset. Everyone knows the enemy will return. The question is, when and in what strength? The horizon is calm again, but only for now. The crew wipes sweat, reloads, and braces for the next strike. And now it's your call. If you believe America's will to fight head-on will always hold the line, press 1. If you think swarm tactics will eventually break through, press 9. Drop your answer and stay with us for what comes next. 7. The fight is over for now. USS America steadies, smoke curling from her guns, spray dripping down steel. Deck crews move slow, checking damage, patching what they can. The Ospreys are gone over the horizon, Marines pushing forward. The mission continues, but the clash left scars. Result: the ship survived, but it cost. Magazines are lighter, barrels hot, nerves raw. Sailors carry the weight of every close call. They know one missed burst could have sunk them. For the US, this proves defense holds. Layers work. Drills matter. America shows it can fight through waves and keep sea lanes open. Allies see the line held. The Pacific stays open. But the enemy adapts. Cheap drones force costly defenses. Each wave is cheaper to send than to stop. The math favors the attacker. And next time, it may not be drones. It could be missiles from the coast, subs in the deep, or swarms doubled in size. The message is clear. This was rehearsal for the real thing. Tomorrow's wave could be stronger, smarter, and America must pay the price again. Impact. Allies trust the US presence, but see the challenge growing. Rivals learn and sharpen. Every clash is more than survival, it's a fight for initiative in the Indo-Pacific. Tonight, the America stood firm. The sea stayed open, but the horizon holds questions. Will the next strike break the shield, or will the US adapt faster? Below decks, engineers rotate crews, swap scorched barrels, log every fault. Pilots debrief from ospreys, passing target cues they saw. Signalers scrub recordings. Intel maps launch points along the coast. Logistics officers crunch the math shots. Fired, hits scored, minutes saved by tighter cycles. Commanders tweak the playbook. More dispersal, deception, faster reloads, counter-swarm tactics, allies closer at hand. Each note written in salt and smoke. This is deterrence as grind, not headline won in inches, kept by practice. And here's where you come in. If you believe America's resolve will always keep the Pacific free, press 1. If you think enemy swarms will eventually overwhelm, press 9. Comment your choice and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. In the contested waters of the South China Sea, where every reef has become a chess piece in a global game, a dangerous standoff unfolded. On the morning of the 13th of August, 2025, the guided missile destroyer USS Higgins sailed steadily toward Scarborough Shoal. Its mission was routine on paper, a freedom of navigation patrol. But the moment its radar picked up unexpected contacts racing toward its position, the ocean turned into a stage for confrontation between two of the world's most powerful navies. A sharp voice pierced the radio waves. "U.S. warship, you are in Chinese waters. Leave immediately." It was not a courtesy warning, but a direct challenge to Washington's right to operate in one of the most disputed maritime zones on Earth. Moments later, gray silhouettes rose on the horizon, Chinese warships closing fast, carving sharp lines across the sea as they matched the destroyer's speed. The air was tense. On the starboard side of the Higgins, the Chinese vessels pressed dangerously close, their wakes slicing the calm waters with deliberate precision. For Beijing, this was more than a maneuver. It was a declaration. Scarborough belonged to China, and no foreign power would be allowed to move unchecked. For Washington, however, the voyage was a matter of principle, an assertion that international law cannot be erased by intimidation. Inside the command center of the Higgins, the crew remained calm. Every adjustment of speed, every angle of the helm carried enormous weight. A single mistake, even a miscalculated turn, could have sparked a collision or worse, a clash that might spiral into war. Yet the destroyer held steady. Silence was its weapon. Discipline was its shield. This was no ordinary encounter at sea. It was a test of strength, of willpower, and of the fragile balance that keeps peace from breaking into open conflict. In those tense hours, the world was reminded that peace in the South China Sea is not guaranteed. It hangs by a thread, pulled tight between restraint and provocation. So, what truly happened in that standoff? Why does a cluster of reefs command the anxious attention of superpowers? And why does every close pass between Chinese and American warships feel like the countdown to crisis? To understand, we must look deeper into the clash between law and power, words and weapons, nations and narratives. To understand why Scarborough Shoal has become a flashpoint, we must return to a historic ruling in 2016. That year, after years of legal disputes, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague delivered a decisive judgment. The tribunal rejected China's sweeping 9-line claim, ruling that Scarborough Shoal lay within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. For Manila, the decision was a triumph. It meant access to vital fishing grounds, a stronger legal standing, and international recognition of its rights. On paper, it was a clear victory for justice and the rule of law. Yet the celebration was short-lived. Beijing declared the ruling null and void, insisting that its historic rights outweighed modern treaties. Chinese Coast Guard and militia ships continued to patrol the area, blocking Filipino fishermen as if nothing had changed. This revealed a harsh reality. International law is powerful in words, but powerless without enforcement. The court had spoken, but no mechanism existed to compel China's compliance. Smaller nations looked on, realizing that even a favorable ruling may not shield them when a stronger power refuses to obey. Scarborough thus became more than a reef. It became the most visible symbol of the gap between written law and actual control at sea. For the United States, this gap was unacceptable. Washington had not ratified UNCLOS, yet its Navy enforced its principles more than any other power. By sailing destroyers like USS Higgins through contested waters, America signaled that rules still mattered and that no country should unilaterally close off vital sea lanes. The message was clear. Freedom of navigation must remain a universal right, not a privilege granted by the strongest. The clash was no longer just about fishing grounds. It was about a principle that defines the future, whether global rules can protect the weak or whether might alone dictates the outcome. And that is the true weight of Scarborough Shoal. It is not simply territory, it is a test of the world's commitment to law over force. So here's a question for you. If you believe international law must stand firm, press 1-inch the comments. If you think raw power will always decide the outcome, press 9. And if you enjoy these deep dives into the world's most dangerous flashpoints, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next analysis. When guns stay silent, words become weapons. After the USS Higgins transited near Scarborough Shoal, Beijing and Washington moved quickly to seize the story. Competing statements, timed for maximum impact, framed the same minutes at sea as two entirely different events, one a provocation repelled, the other a lawful passage completed. In the information age, first impressions harden into strategic realities. In China's state media, the incident became proof of control. Headlines claimed the Southern Theater Command had monitored, warned, and drove away the U.S. destroyer. Phrases like protect sovereignty and maintain stability echoed across outlets, crafted to reassure domestic audiences and to signal resolve to neighbors. The subtext was unmistakable. The rules are ours, and our presence makes them real. Washington told the opposite story. Navy officials described a routine freedom of navigation operation, completed without interference and in accordance with international law. The message to allies was steadiness, no deviation, no intimidation, no change in course. By insisting the patrol was uneventful, the United States sought to normalize its presence and to project credibility in defending open sea lanes. Yet independent proof was scarce. No shared radar tracks, no verified imagery, no neutral observers with access to raw data. Operational security, political incentives, and media dynamics combined to lead the public with dueling press releases. Lacking common evidence, international coverage often presented both versions side by side, creating parallel realities that could not be reconciled. This ambiguity carries strategic weight. For Southeast Asian states, uncertainty invites hedging. If America's resolve is doubtful, bandwagoning toward China looks safer. If China's grip seems overstated, balancing returns. In this fog, deterrence credibility is fragile, and miscalculation risk grows, especially when close maneuvers at sea are later packaged as triumphs for domestic consumption. The battlefield extends beyond press rooms. Satellite snapshots, ship spotter feeds, and viral clips shape perceptions in hours, while deepfakes and selective edits threaten to outpace verification. A sharp turn captured at the wrong angle can look like a retreat. A standard warning can sound like escalation. In such a contest, narrative discipline becomes as crucial as seamanship. At sea, credibility rests not only on words, but on weapons. The USS Higgins, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, embodies American sea power. Its Aegis combat system integrates radar, missiles, and command into a single digital brain, able to track hundreds of targets simultaneously. The SPY-1D radar provides long-range detection and early warning, while vertical launch cells carry SM-2 and ESSM missiles for air defense, Tomahawk cruise missiles for land attack, and harpoons to sink enemy ships. For close defense, the Phalanx CIWS fires thousands of rounds per minute, a last-ditch wall of steel against incoming threats. Add electronic warfare suites and decoys, and the ship is more than a vessel, it is a floating fortress. Facing it, Beijing deployed some of its most advanced warships. The Type 052D destroyer carries the YJ-18, a supersonic anti-ship missile feared for its speed and range, designed to penetrate layered defenses. For air cover, it relies on HHQ-9 long-range surface-to-air missiles, coupled with phased array radars that close the gap with Western technology. Alongside them, Type 54 Ampere frigates provide numbers, flexibility, and additional missile platforms. Together, They represent the sharp edge of China's naval rise, proof that Beijing is determined not to be intimidated. Yet weapons alone do not decide encounters. Tactics shape perception. The U.S. destroyer maintained steady course and speed, avoided unnecessary radio chatter, and projected calm professionalism. The strategy was deliberate, showing discipline, avoiding provocation, and reinforcing that the operation was lawful and routine. By contrast, Chinese vessels pressed aggressively closer, issuing repeated warnings, sometimes running parallel at dangerous distances. These maneuvers were meant to create psychological pressure, capture dramatic footage, and later broadcast it as evidence of defiance. This was less a clash of firepower than a contest of posture. The Higgins embodied restraint and confidence. China emphasized proximity and pressure. Both sides signaled strength, but in very different ways. And therein lies the danger. When rival navies test each other in tight waters, a single misstep can turn tactics into tragedy. So now the question falls to you. Whose approach seems more effective at sea, the US show of calm restraint or China's aggressive pressure? Press 1 in the comments if you side with America's discipline, or 9 if you think Beijing's tactics send the stronger message. And be sure to subscribe, because the balance of power at sea is shifting with every encounter. The encounter at Scarborough Shoal was not an isolated event. It fit into a larger pattern of rising competition across the South China Sea. In recent years, China has staged live fire drills, amphibious landing exercises, and missile launches in disputed waters. These were not mere training routines, but political messages, crafted to warn rivals that Beijing intends to dominate the maritime domain. By repeating them frequently, China normalized a state of tension, making the extraordinary seem routine. For smaller nations, the cost of this environment is steep. Even ordinary fishing trips now carry the risk of harassment. Chinese Coast Guard and militia vessels shadow local boats, block access, and use water cannons to drive them away. This constant pressure gradually erodes the confidence of regional governments and forces difficult choices: accept Beijing's claims or face unending friction at sea. Yet resistance is emerging. For the first time, India and the Philippines conducted joint naval drills in the South China Sea. Though modest in scale, the symbolism was heavy. For Manila, it showed that it was not alone in resisting Chinese pressure. For New Delhi, it signaled a willingness to play a greater security role in the wider Indo-Pacific. Both nations, wary of Beijing's assertiveness, found common cause on the water. The United States also deepened its role. Washington and Manila expanded their defense cooperation agreement, granting American forces access to new Philippine bases, some positioned near contested waters and Taiwan. This reassured the Philippines of U.S. support, but raised Beijing's fears of encirclement. From China's perspective, American bases now formed a tightening chain, a network of footholds designed to check its every move. Scarborough Shoal itself remained the hottest flashpoint. Each time Chinese ships blocked Filipino fishermen, the clashes spread instantly online, turning local struggles into international headlines. For the Philippines, the shoal is both livelihood and sovereignty. For Beijing, it is a strategic prize that cannot be lost. The collision of these stakes makes every encounter fraught with risk, every confrontation a step closer to miscalculation. And that leaves us with a choice to consider. Should smaller nations stand firm with allies like the US to resist pressure, or accept China's dominance to avoid constant clashes? Press 1 if you believe unity and alliances are the only way forward, or 9 if you think yielding to Beijing is the more realistic path. Don't forget to subscribe, because the struggle for the South China Sea is only intensifying. Scarborough Shoal is more than a reef lost in the ocean. It has become a litmus test for the international order itself. Each time a U.S. destroyer sails past, the message is that no single nation can claim entire seas as private territory. Each time Chinese warships shadow and confront, the message is that might makes right, and historical claims can override modern law. These competing visions stretch far beyond Asia. They shape the principles that govern global trade and security. For the United States, credibility is on the line. If its freedom of navigation patrols appear weak or hesitant, allies may begin to doubt American commitment, while adversaries grow bolder. For China, each confrontation reinforces the image of a rising power unwilling to yield, both to foreign pressure and to unfavorable international rulings. The standoff at Scarborough, therefore, is not simply about reefs and rocks, it is about who sets the rules of the 21st century. The stakes are immense. The South China Sea carries trillions of dollars in annual trade. If freedom of navigation erodes, global commerce will be reshaped by politics and coercion. Conversely, if international law holds firm, it will remain the shield of smaller nations against the ambitions of the strong. The outcome will determine whether the future belongs to a world of rules or a world of raw competition. And yet, amid these grand stakes, the human dimension should not be forgotten. For Filipino fishermen, Scarborough is a source of livelihood. For sailors aboard both American and Chinese warships, it is a place where a wrong maneuver could change their lives forever. The clash of powers reverberates in the lives of ordinary people, reminding us that the price of instability is always paid by those far from the decision-making rooms. The incident of the 13th of August, 2025 ended without shots fired, but it underscored how thin the line is between routine patrols and open conflict. The lesson is clear. True strength does not lie in missiles or warships, but in wisdom, restraint, and the ability to choose peace over escalation. History shows that nations respecting international law and valuing dialogue build a safer world for all. Peace, however, is never automatic. It must be chosen, defended, and passed on to the next generation. That is the enduring message of Scarborough. In the face of rivalry and ambition, the greatest victory is the preservation of stability itself.